don't
Which
really.
might be statistically
It
true.
might be statistically true, but it's because like of the oppression that they've received.
Exactly. So that's my problem, is that he's not talking about the external factors.
Like there's more to it than
We just don't care about
Yeah.
education, and I don't care about my West African roots. Well, it's because I don't know.
Yeah.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
They have other needs that have not been met.
Mhm. Exactly.
Okay, so we can talk about the next question, which says summarize the theories presented in the section historical perspectives on failure and explain how these theories could be either helpful or damaging to understanding students.
Yeah. I had this. Who else had this? Did anyone else have this? It says B and D.
B and D.
I don't know
Okay,
if someone
then
else
I have
has
this.
this.
Let me find my section.
I just thought it was. Okay, there were like 3 different sections. I don't know if I got out of it what I was supposed to get out of it, but I think I was like, they were all like these almost like stereotypes, I guess you could say,
Very
of people. And yeah, and I was reading it, I just could not like grasp it. Like it was talking about genetic inferiority and how like some people still like think that this is a thing, that like some people's genetics just are like inferior to others, and like the reason that a kid fails is because of their genetics and not because of like external factors or like their home life or like I don't know, like there's like all these different things, and they were just saying like because the genetics of this student are like I don't know, like a certain way that makes them like more like apt to fail.
I got in a discussion with one of my roommates about this very recently. I was like, as a teacher, I cannot believe that some students are born with less potential than others.
Yeah.
But she was arguing that in the womb, the way the mother feels and like treats her body like really does set up an infant for success or not.
And
Which
I think developmentally
Yeah.
we know that to be true. Maternal
Yeah.
nutrition, or prenatal nutrition, prenatal environment, ACEs. We just had a class together. So ACEs is
adverse childhood experiences.
oh, thank you. Yeah. And so that includes, violence in the home, drug use in the home, mental illness, maternal substance abuse, things like that. And so I mean that's
I think that's what like
hard to
I'm
do.
talking about with the genetic inferiority. It's like you have to look at those other aspects of their life other than like
Just
because of your genes, because of what race you are, what like these different things, that makes you inferior to other people. Whereas like it's not like because your mom didn't take care of you while you were being developed, or like not that you would ever say that to a kid, but like like there's that factor, and there's the factors of like home life and like that difference. But I was just like, I can't believe that like it said, because it gave examples of like this is what people thought about like people like from Ireland or like the Irish, and then the Polish, and most recently it's Hispanics. And to think that like people still think that's like because you're Hispanic and your genetics are like a certain way, we don't believe that you're like can be successful like that. I was just like, what? Like people think that?
Yeah, I spent way too much time trying to find this quote that I heard once, and it goes on and on saying like this group of immigrants is the laziest, they're the dirtiest, they beat their children run wild, they refuse to learn English, they're a drain on the system. It's just all this like typical stereotypical bad stuff about immigrants. They're taking our jobs and blah blah blah. And then it was like 1912, So people have been saying the same things about immigrants, and they do it in every country, and they do it in, you just, you used to. There's signs that I've seen in restaurants and I don't know that they say like. No Irish, and things like, so it's just been passed on to a different generation of immigrants.
teachers are.
Yeah, saying the same
So
thing.
that was just one misconception, or I call them misconceptions because I was like, I don't think that these can be like, I don't know. The next one was cultural deficit. Do you want to talk about?
I just did E on this one. So.
Oh, okay. So for cultural deficit, sorry, I wrote this it's like when people, because of their like culture, they're unable to perform to the standards, and like they like of like what we want, but that's because of their culture. So like your culture is like impeding your ability to like do this certain thing, and so I was like, I don't think that's necessarily true. Like you just have to like use that.
I wonder if some of that comes into play from when the cultures say different things about how to act. Like some cultures say to like respect your elders and believe what they say and don't contradict them. While in our education system, asking questions is really important to succeed in school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I think part of the cultural deficit thing was like, it was more, like a racial stereotype rather than just culture from what I was getting. Because for me to think of like a cultural deficit, I guess I wouldn't say a deficit, but like you do need to be aware of cultural differences.
Yeah.
Because if, the examples it says in here, like, oh, you can't trust those people in their culture, it's okay to cheat. So you could see that as a cultural difference or deficit that they cheat, or you could think like, oh, they are from a more communal group where people work together on tests, and where it's more about like working together to find an answer rather than everybody sits and doesn't look at other people's paper. So I thought it was, that you have to like walk a fine line of being aware of the cultural differences and then not assuming that every single person from that culture is like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And finding the real reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
They're all cheaters, but they
Yeah.
have a different way of viewing tests.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The last one was cultural mismatch, which I got kind of was like that people at some point like have like learned though. This one was kind of difficult, but I said it was like that they've internalized the English language. I think it said that somewhere in there, and that like that their like culture needs to be like fixed or modernized. But then that doesn't really make sense to me. I feel like it was cultural mismatch to me. Sounds like they don't know. Never mind. I don't know what I'm saying.
Well, it says in here, the term cultural mismatch is more positive than cultural deficit. The underlying assumptions are usually the same.
Yeah.
So here it is. It's basically saying that you need to assimilate. So cultural mismatch view, something must be done to change the culture. So
that it needs to be fixed. Or like something.
So yeah. You have it.
Okay, sorry, that got a little confusing.
I know it doesn't. I don't like the title of it. I think the title of it is confusing.
Yeah.
Of the mismatch.
Should we move on to the next article or?
Yes. It's been 30 minutes since I started timing, which was probably 10
Plus
minutes.
3.
13 minutes.
So we're at 43. But we should still probably go into
We should probably talk
Rios
about
and Marcos.
Yes.
So
Maybe just less
since
stuff.
we all like did like summarize the changing demographics, closing academic gap, developing cross-cultural competence, and confronting colonization and hegemony, we could like just briefly talk about that part and like
I gave
what we thought.
really brief definitions.
I think just like the one I really want to talk about is confronting colonization and I don't even know how to say that word.
Hegemony?
Hegemony. I didn't understand it, so I couldn't really like define it because I was just having a hard time with that paragraph or section, I guess.
I think it's part of it's understanding that colonization and trying to get people in the U.S. to all assimilate has been a thing in the past, and that it probably is still occurring to some extent, trying to get people to all speak English to like succeed in school in this particular way with these particular values.
Yeah, like I think there was, when people first colonized the United States, they kind of, I don't know if they decided on a lingua franca of English when everybody got here. I mean, obviously they didn't decide, but somehow that happened. But then I think there was probably also like I think there probably did need to be like some type of propaganda for people to feel like we need to be united, so that it didn't just like, oh, all the Polish immigrants are going to create like a Polish area and all the, German immigrants are going to create a German area, and we still have that, there's definitely spaces like that, but yeah, I think like what you were saying that that in the past it has been a thing that everyone needs to assimilate, because we were gonna look up hegemony, because I think it just means the same, like
I think it has to do with monogamous,
being the
which
same.
Yeah.
kind of means the
It's the
same.
same.
Maybe
Those Latin roots.
I was getting it mixed up with homogenous.
That makes more sense, thanks. Matt.
Yeah.
Oh, just kidding. Hegemony, or hegemony, leadership or predominant influence exercised by one nation over others, as in a confederation. Leadership or predominance.
So that has to do with assimilation, like into the predominant culture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so more closer to the colonization.
Okay.
Yeah, predominant influence. Yeah, assimilation. Let's see.
So I'm just gonna like go through and briefly summarize like what you said, and then we can like move on to the next questions, just because that will help the other questions. So how to summarize like changing demographics is that schools are starting to become more diverse, and like teachers and like are trying to like encourage diversity, I feel like more, and closing the academic gap. Some students are exceeding and some aren't, and you asked a question like what support is in place for students who are succeeding that is missing for those falling apart, and I think just like extra support, like we just need to keep giving like extra support to them, and that could look like a lot of things. I don't know exactly what.
I mean, there's so many factors that influence
Yeah.
how a child does in school, and
Mhm.
they might be lacking in support at home, or support in school, or support in their home language.
So I think it just really depends, like knowing your student and what they need. And then developing cross-cultural competence is like when students are able to participate in their home culture as well as adapt to school, and like then they have more of a chance of like succeeding when they can relate to their school and like speak academically and things like that. And then we already talked about confronting colonization and hegemony.
I was gonna say something, but now I can't remember.
Okay, so I will talk about
Oh wait, I was just gonna bring up, never mind, you're going fast, I forgot.
okay, so the first one is
That's okay.
Oh no, it's okay.
So I have to talk about access to quality education for all and recognition of the value of cultural diversity nationally. And this article was really like in depth and took a long time for me to understand, but I think that the argument linked to access to a quality education for all just had to do with like basic human rights, and that everyone should have the same right to education and like all have enough support so that they can succeed in school and like through and including cultural rights as well as educational rights. I think that was like one of the main points in this access to quality education for all. And it's like he talked about this to help us realize that the role of education can actually be used to like promote cultural differences, and that everyone needs to have human rights and can benefit from education if they like try and take it this way, that it can promote cultural differences, and then through that students will be more comfortable in the school environment and will succeed more, I think. And for recognition of the values of cultural diversity nationally, lately the idea of cultural diversity has really grown in schools, and I thought that was really good to like know and like hear, and but people also assume that cultural diversity is needed for there to be unity, and I don't necessarily like think that way, because we need to help our students like recognize that diversity is a really important thing and a really good thing, and there have been a lot of policies created lately that have to do with like equality and freedom from discrimination, and especially in schools, like giving kids support, like taking them out of class and giving them more support that they need. I think that's a really good way to like try and help them, but at the same time, it could, like we were talking about earlier, it could be hard for a student who's taken out to feel like they're actually included. So like balancing that, I think, but letting them know that it's okay that that happens, like that's not a bad thing.
And while there has been this movement to encourage
For a
diversity
while,
in
yeah.
classrooms, there's also been English-only laws created in Arizona and California, which don't allow for bilingual education.
I had no idea that was a thing.
Which
I
is
had no,
insane.
like, why in the world, I don't know, that's so crazy to me.
And then also another setback regarding cultural diversity in education is I watched the movie Precious Knowledge, and I think we're watching it for this class and another class.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'd seen it in another class, and it's about how this ethnic studies class in maybe Arizona, maybe New Mexico, one of those states.
The Southwest.
Yeah,
Border
somewhere,
states.
somewhere in the Southwest, where they had an ethnic studies class. And this one politician decided to take it up as like, they're being taught that their race is superior, or I can't remember the full
Yeah, that was
argument.
in Arizona.
Okay, but yeah, so they're, because wasn't it, because it was that horrible woman governor, wasn't it?
I don't remember.
Jan.
Jan?
Yeah,
Is that her name?
yes.
I can look it up.
Yeah, so anyway, so there has been setbacks that they basically can't learn about ethnic studies or their people's contributions to
And I don't
to the United
understand
States.
why they think that's like okay to create policies that are like that. Like I don't see how they think that's beneficial for all the students.
Yeah, Jan Brewer. Yeah. I think it's just fear-based. It's still that there's
for
this,
sure.
we still have this idea that we're supposed to be a melting pot, and we're not supposed to like think about our differences, whereas
Not a salad bowl.
yes, we're a salad bowl now. Isn't that what it
Yeah.
is? Yeah. And so, because the melting pot is like, oh, everybody loses their individual things and merges together. But I think that's still a popular ideal or concept, and unfortunately, a lot of people
I mean,
feel that way.
in our early education, we were taught melting pot.
Yeah.
Like our parents definitely were
Yeah.
taught melting pot.
Yeah.
It was fun. I was in a kindergarten class this morning, and I've never been to this kindergarten class, but they knew all these different songs to like learn different things, and when they would transition, they would sing these songs, and they sang a song in Spanish, and they had Chinese class, and they were like doing stuff in English, and so they had like all of these different languages that they're like learning, and it's kindergarten, so but they were doing like family trees in their Chinese class, and so everyone in the school gets Chinese lessons for like a certain amount of time.
That's so
I
cool.
think it's every day. It's like crazy, really
Wow.
cool. But then they were like singing songs in Spanish and like all this different stuff, and it was just really cool to see these like little kids like being able to have that education of like learning these, even if it's just songs, like learning something else, and so then the other students can be like, oh, well, we're like all learning a different language like together, and so
Yeah.
I thought that was cool.
Everyone understands how hard it is to learn another language.
Yeah.
I just had to put that in there 'cause it's really cool.
Do you want to summarize the author's arguments?
Okay, so this was just like at the end, and it kind of like, I kind of just was talking about what Elisa was talking about and how like, okay, so I said essentially the argument is that understanding and teaching with cultural diversity in mind is essential within the school system, and that it's like part of your human right, like that it's like students' human rights to be able to have that cultural diversity. And so as teachers, we need to be able to like foster that like space for students to be able to do this. And that's kind of what I got out of like in a quick summary of what the end was. I'm pretty sure that's what it was kind of saying, and just like helping students like see the diversity maybe, and like be able to like think of it in like a way that's like beneficial instead of like oh, well, you're this diverse, you know, like all these different things, but like being able to like understand it, see it, and like use it as like their advantage within the classroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of what I got from that.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's going to be really hard. I think it's
Yeah.
going to be exciting, but you know, I know we both made references to the last class that we had together. Sorry, guys. But just about like like a tourist curriculum of other cultures.
Yeah, which is really just like celebrate the holidays. Like you have a student from Kenya, let's celebrate this one holiday that occurs in Kenya, but like never talk about their culture any other time of the year. And it can't turn into that they're just like put on the spot and we'll be like, you're the expert when you're really like 12.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's gonna be a fine line of, and if that student does want to share that, but then what I think part of, and I think what the author said too, is that we need to make sure that we're not learning about other cultures and that we're internalizing that they are others. Like we do it this way, and this is like the normal dominant culture way. And some people do it this other weird way, but we're going to talk about it. You know? I don't know.
Yeah.
So should we each go into our parts, or
it's probably
has it been about an hour?
Yeah. Well, we're supposed to take 45 minutes. It's been 40 minutes since I started timing.
So it's been 53. Thank you for listening to our long presentation.
Where's the record? Oh.